stick. I think it sounds so cool. I hope you enjoy it. 'Cause it's nice to do every once in a while, I think. It's fun to play with too, so if you ever want to come up here and play with it after service, feel free. All right. So my message a few weeks ago was, "It shall come to pass," and I spoke about how many times in the Bible, which is 120 times, that phrase is quoted. And then Janelle after service said, "Well, you know, joy is quoted a lot of times in the Bible too." So I looked it up, and sure enough, it's quoted 250 times in the Bible. And when words are in the Bible that many times, and also when they show up in our lives, you know how certain words or certain things will show up in our lives, there's a significance there for us to pay attention to try to have a better understanding, a spiritual understanding of what that is in our is for, really. So the question that popped up for me, though, after I found out that joy was in the Bible 250 times, I thought to myself, okay, so how come we're not living every moment in joy? And I think it comes back to the idea that we need to be dusting our minds, clearing our minds of whatever's in the way for us to experience joy. Well, another thing happened after Janelle said that a couple weeks ago. The Spiritual Rebels were having their group, and we started talking about cleaning house and how we need to have cleaning house parties. You know, everybody come over to one person's house and help them clean, then go to the next. Yeah, right. Anyway, it sounded like a good plan. The person that was last, though, probably wouldn't enjoy it, but you know. But she was talking about how her mother would sweep the floor every day. And she would sweep the floor every day with a broom to clear the energy, and also just, you know, to clean, but also her main idea was to clear the energy and get rid of that bad energy that was in the house. And I thought it was so powerful because I thought, you know, that really is kind of a neat thing. And with the boys eating, you know, in the kitchen there, I'm sweeping every day anyway. But I thought to myself, hey, just go the whole house and just think of it as a spiritual practice, which could be very powerful. So I've started doing them. But she was very adamant, Dr. Barbara was, about saying that she did it with a broom and not a vacuum cleaner. You know, these modern technologies are great, but sometimes the actual practice of using something more physical like that is more stimulating. And it was really kind of cool because the idea of a broom and dusting our minds has a lot of parallels in it that are significant for us. And here's what the broom is defined as. The broom symbolizes it is time to clean up your act and resolve your past issues. It can also mean it is time to get rid of things you no longer need. You like my little sweeping broom? Excuse me. I thought that was fun. But it goes, that concept of cleaning up your act and resolving your past issues goes along with the idea of dusting your minds, doesn't it? Dusting our minds. So the question then becomes, how do we clean up our act, resolve past issues, and release ill thoughts? What do you think? We can turn to God, can't we? We can turn to God and allow God to come through us. Myrtle Fillmore, in the text, How to Let God Help You, tells us that what we really need to do is just, don't you love that commercial? Yeah. Count it all joy. Whee! The pig goes, whee! Out the window, whee! It's really a funny commercial. But Myrtle says, count it all joy. And we don't do that, do we? Our minds are so cluttered up with all that's going on that we don't see the joy in simple things. Leaning out the window with our pinwheels. She goes on to say, when he of the cloven hoof appears, count it all joy. For these times of deviating from the right are the result of the Spirit of good doing a much needed house cleaning work. A little duster, dusting the place. And by the way, he of the cloven hoof is referring to those error thoughts, evil, or anything that's showing up in our life that is unpleasant, believe it or not. In the Bible, the cloven hoof, though, is defined as the devil. And we all know what the devil is, right? Well, here I got it for you. The devil is a state of consciousness unwilling to accept divine good. The devils that we encounter are fear, anger, jealousy, and other similar negative traits, and they are in ourselves. God didn't create those negative traits, fear, jealousy, anger. No, we in the human condition have created them. And so we are the only ones that can experience them.
Right.
God is only good, divine good, and God only wants good for us. So we're choosing not to experience the divine good if we go to that consciousness of the devil or the thoughts of the devil. And I'm not saying you even have to say the word devil. But this is a powerful quote from the revealing word. It really is, if we can just plug that into our minds. If our consciousness is unwilling to accept divine good, then how do we expect a better life? We're not going to get a better life if we can't accept divine good. If we're sitting there in fear and anger, jealousy, or looking at things like, oh, poor me, or oh, isn't that awful? Or from that place in our minds, we are not going to experience divine good. And how many people live every day of their life in that miserable state of consciousness? I mean, they cannot or will not look beyond what is the misery, the jealousy, or any of those things. They just keep living in that same circle of uncomfortableness, of negativeness. They live in that place that is really like devil worship, really, because you're not focusing in on God. They waller around and they're stagnant and unhappy. How many people do you know that are in that state of mind? A lot, huh? I mean, sometimes we fall into it too, unfortunately. You know, if we feel sad about the conditions of the world, and we go to a mirror and honestly look in the mirror, can you admit to yourself how much you've contributed to the miseries in the world? Yeah, you laugh, or you might even say, oh, I don't do that. But we do, because we are all in that one consciousness. So what happens if we have had a thought or said anything negative about anyone? We are just living in that negative world. We are taking that consciousness and just keep dragging it through the dirt. If we blamed or made judgment on anyone, we're living in that. And have you condemned yourself in any fashion? That's all negative energy. That is all the opposite of divine good that awaits us. And our minds get tangled up in that mess. They just get into this whole tangled up mess, like we find ourselves doing it, and we don't even know how to get out of it. But every one of these actions or thoughts or words that we say contributes to the negative pollution out there in the world. We are a collective energy, and all we're doing is destroying our own energy, our own environment. People say, oh, well, you know, people are throwing plastics out there. How many times have you thrown the plastic? How many times have you thrown the plastic with your thoughts, words, and actions? Because it's the same darn thing, whether you throw a plastic out or you're thinking it in your mind. Those are the devil at work in our own self. The devil doesn't exist outside of our human condition. There's no devil. We are the only ones that express, as much as we express God, we have the choice to express the devil, believe it or not, depending on how we act. And if we convince ourselves of all of our lies or condemnations or anything that we've said about anyone, that is the right thing, because I know it's the right thing. What are we doing? Yeah, we're just making more of that same energy that is going to do nothing but keep causing the same old stuff. We destroy our own consciousness. We must learn to adjust our thinking and our words and our thoughts and our actions and accept divine good and not jump into the negative whirlpool, I call it. Myrtle goes on with this from How Let God Help You. Once you become a master of yourself, you will not stir up a dust cloud of negativeness when you discover some hidden corner in your mind that needs to be freed. Wasn't this a perfect quote for our talk today? I mean, talk about God. Just like, open the book, there's the quote. I'm like, okay, dust goes perfect with it. Clearing out the negativeness, yes. And we hide those things in the corner of our minds, don't we? We hide those things. But to become a master of ourselves is not about, oh, I'm going to be the best person I can be. I'm going to be the best Christian. I'm going to be the best of all. No, it's not about ego at all. It's about taking our thoughts and our words and our actions, and like we do in prayer, lift them up into the consciousness of all there is and include everybody in that ride. It's not like, oh, I'm going to pick 6 people here today and that's all I'm praying for. No, we do it for everyone. And it goes beyond this room. It goes beyond who we're praying for. You might pick out one particular person, but that person is being lifted up and it ripples out to other people. Warren often says that people on drugs are selfish, and this is what I'm saying about this master of yourself. It's not about being selfish. But he says that people that are on drugs a lot of times are selfish. And I said, I have to agree with him when he explained what it meant. But the thing is that they are selfish, but they have poor self-worth. And yet they'll fight and steal and lie and cheat to get their drugs and to be in that state of mind, but they won't fight that hard for their own self-worth. And it's such an oxymoron. And it puts so much negative energy out there into the world. And when you think about it, it's like, fight that hard for your self-worth. Because that's where we're going to change the world. We're going to change the world with each and every person going within and mastering their self. And saying, these are my limitations. This is my growth place. This is where I need to be. And when we find those little hidden corners, whoa, that one pink one, we free ourselves of that mindset. Those little hidden corners are going to come up sometimes. They really are. And it's okay. Because you know what? It's kind of like, and I'm jumping here, but that's okay. For me, what happened to me the other day was I was talking about somebody's behavior. And I was talking with Reverend Warren, so it was all in confidence, but I was talking to him about a certain person's behavior. And all of a sudden, I started getting real emotional. And I realized that there was things tucked back there that made me emotional because I was thinking about my mother. My mother made her transition at 59. She drank herself to death. The last 5 years she was alive, all she wanted to do is drink. And the only time she quit drinking was to go through rehab. And she went through rehab 8 times. So, I had done a lot of healing work around this. But for some reason, talking about this person brought up something that made me really sad again about my mother. And I was like, whoa. And then what triggered was this friendship I had with a person who I had broke off our friendship. And I mean, I didn't even remember this at all. And why I had broken off the friendship, which was really a silly thing. But both of those popped up, and I was crying, and I was feeling like sad inside. And all of a sudden, I just was like, whew, and I just released it. And it was almost like I could just feel it go out of my body. And I thought, wow, that was one of those hidden cobwebs in my mind that I needed to let go of. So it happens sometimes that we hide stuff back in our minds thinking, oh, we've dealt with it. And neither one of these things had I even thought about for over 10 years, maybe even over 15 years. But the good news was that I had good things to think about both of those people. So the minute I felt like it had gone from my body, like I had released it, I thought about those good things about those people. My mom and my friend, and it was like I put a smile back in my face and I felt positive again. I thought, wow, I hope I'm done with that. I hope that, is the end of that, because you don't know when they're going to pop up. You don't know how you've been affected. You don't know what will happen in your life that maybe you haven't totally healed. But it's important to become a master of yourself so you know how to deal with those. So in case something does pop up. But back to the fighting for your self-worth, part of that is a mindset. And sometimes we are this close to that same kind of mindset of self-worth, not holding ourselves in the place of that self-esteem where we know we are worthy of that divine good. We don't have to wallow around in anything that isn't good. We can move through that. We have a choice of seeing whether something is good or not good. A lot of times what happens is with people is that they just haven't seen their good yet in any situation. I mean, we've had some powerful prayer requests here today, but I see the good coming forth for each person. There's something good coming forth. Maybe the thing itself isn't so good, but we know that their highest good is going to come forth because we've prayed it up. We've seen it for them. We've held that vision and that consciousness for them. Any unpleasant condition we might be experiencing in this human form is temporary and is destroyed by truth. Capital T, truth. Do you believe that?
Yes.
Because that's where you have to go when you're in those moments, not crises, but maybe crisis. Or maybe a thought that brings the sadness over you. You have to know that any unpleasant feeling that you're having is just something you're moving through, like a dust cloud or whatever. You know, we've all used a broom to sweep the floor, right? Everybody's used a broom, right? Tell me yes, please. Yes. You'd be surprised if I told it to some people. They'd probably say no. But so we've all used a broom. And when we've swept the house, you know, we might get a little pile of dirt, right? Just a little pile. And we're probably all going, ooh, that's too much dirt. But if we go out to the garage or downstairs to a concrete basement, that you know, that's, you know, you kind of have to beat the cobwebs to get through, and you sweep, you're going to see dust flying, aren't you? Yeah. Same broom, two different situations, and two different results. It's the same thing we do with our own selves, isn't it? And our own minds. We sometimes stir up a little pile of dust. Other times we have a mound. But either way, we have to sweep it away. Either way, we have to get rid of it. We have to throw it away, do something with it, sweep it out into the universe and allow it to just be what it is, dust of the earth, nothing more. We have to change that in our minds. What conditions have we created to bring forth the different results, though? Because only new actions will bring different results. If we keep doing the same old thing, expecting something new, that's not going to work, is it? No. We have to do something different. And what is the one thing we can do that is different when we have all that dust blowing? Change our thoughts. Change our thoughts. And clear the air and know that what? The truth is, capital T truth is, that God is good and has divine good waiting for us. We just have to be open and receptive to receiving it. But just like sweeping that basement in the two different conditions, when we don't focus in on our spiritual growth, we end up with a big pile of dust, don't we? Have you ever noticed that? If you haven't been saying prayers every day, or you don't give thanks for the good that pops up in your life, or even going out and getting in the car and the car starts, you don't, you know, how many people say thank you for letting me start the car? You know, simple thing. Now it's like pushing a button, but still. I mean, we don't even give thanks for those blessings that we receive on every level. And it's important to celebrate all that. It's important to get up in the morning and go, hey, this is great. It's a new day. Hey, I've got clothes to put on. Isn't this fabulous? My life is wonderful. No matter what's happening, we have to go to that place, or else we end up back in bed sad and depressed, don't we? And woe is me. Woe is me. And that's not where we want to go. Well, the same thing happens with our spiritual growth. I don't know for you, because I go to church every Sunday, and I've been doing this pretty much since I found Unity. I don't think the only ones I've missed is when I've been sick, or if I'm out of town, like Cancun. I didn't go to church when I went to Cancun because I didn't know where the Unity Church was there. I don't think there was one in Cancun. That was, 27 years ago almost, for our honeymoon. So, but I'm just saying, I try to go to church every Sunday because I know the importance for me that it triggers. I read my daily word every day because I know it triggers something within me. But how much effort are we putting forth for our spiritual growth? Are we showing up? Are we showing up for classes or activities or for church to celebrate our spiritual growth? Or are we showing up because we kind of feel like, oh, today I think I'll go to church. No. I mean, wake up with that idea that you want to be growing and being all that you can be. Show up and be who you want to be. Because once we can see how important it is to stay in the right consciousness, we can always see the divine good. And that's when we attract our highest good, is when we stay in that state of mind. I think Dr. Barbara's mother had a very good idea about sweeping and clearing, keeping that energy clear, because it kept her vision on that divine good. And I think when she prayed, she probably could sit back and count it all joy with ease and grace. And it does make a difference. If we can have that clearness in our minds, then our hearts open up and we can count it all joy. We can feel the joy in everything that we do. But this quote is from James chapter 1, verse 2 through 8. And, hi. And it says, "My brethren, count it all joy when you fall into various trials, knowing that the testing of your faith produces patience." Hi. He's standing at the back of the door if you guys are wondering why I'm laughing and making signals to me. But the testing of our faith is our ability to know God, to claim God in our lives, to be able to bring forth God in our lives, and to count it all joy, to be in that state of mind where we see the divine good. And it's huge, because we all know that anything that happens in the human condition is only the human condition. Our spiritual growth is God bringing forth the good. And verse 4 says, "But let patience have its perfect work, that you may be perfect and complete, lacking in nothing." When we are moving through this like that, we are that perfect expression of God. This is why I love this GIF here, is because to me it's bringing forth the energy of light, the energy of God that comes through us. And when we're in that place, we are expressing the individuality of all of us, which is that expression of God, and allowing our personalities to be who we are at a spiritual level, not on the human condition level, which is a big difference. There's a big difference there. But daily we can affirm, and this affirmation's in your bulletin. "I lack nothing, and I am the abundance of God in manifestation." Let's say it together. I lack nothing. I am the abundance of God in manifestation. And that is speaking truth. Verse 5 says, "If any of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you." God doesn't see fault. God doesn't see fear, anger, jealousy, any of those things. God only sees good. So we're not just talking about wisdom here. We're talking about anything. Anything that you desire. If you ask, knowing that God is divine good, knowing that the only thing you are going to experience is good, then what are you going to get? Good. That's right. You're going to get good. Okay, and verse 6 says, "But let him ask in faith with no doubting, because the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea driven and tossed by the wind." How many people have asked for something thinking they are asking from that place of knowing God, but then there's that little bit that comes forth that goes, "Oh, maybe I'm not going to get that. Maybe that's not going to happen. Maybe." Right? We go down that path sometimes, don't we? Instead of crossing out that doubt and going with pure faith, knowing that whatever is coming forth is the highest good. Maybe that job that you really wanted to get was not your job, but another one is better that's coming along. You have to put your mindset in the right place to see it coming forth. Maybe that diagnosis that you got was not the one you wanted to hear, but the next one is going to be the one for the highest good, and you're going to see that you're healed or see that something is okay. We have to go from that place. Any turmoil or chaos we see is just our human condition, what we perceive on this human condition, not on a spiritual level. And that mound of negative dust that we can build up real quick, We need to just blow it away. Everybody do it like a breath, like you're blowing away a pile of dust. Or blowing out the candle, because that's what we need to do, is just blow it away. Blow it out from us, away from us, and allow our thoughts and our words and our actions to be aligned with truth, be aligned with God. And 7 and 8 says, that person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord. Such a person is a double-minded man, unstable in all they do. The person that doubts. Now, I really I like this for the idea of double-minded, but if you notice, I picked this tree because tree is still growing, isn't it? If we get in that state of double-mindedness where we're thinking, oh, God's going to bring forth whatever I desire, but at the same time, I'm doubting that good, you can be the tree and stand firm and know that you're just in a growing experience, that you're growing through this, that whatever leaves you're supposed to drop off are supposed to drop off, and that good is going to come forth with all the green and lush abundance of all there is. And that's the verse, people. That's the verse. We have to learn, though, that we cannot speak about a government, bad about a government on one hand, and then claim world peace. That's not going to work. We can't sit there and say stuff negative about a certain person and then say, I love everyone. It doesn't work. They're oxymorons, and all you're doing is weaving a collage of craziness that is going to X each other out. And what energy is going to build? It's up to us. We have to change our thoughts and our words and our actions, and that means with everything we do. Quit claiming that's a bad thing. It's going to be bad. Focus in on what is good and what is divine good. You know, we when we first came here, we would tell everybody, we behold the Christ in you. People are, behold the Christ. But that is saying that you can see the good in somebody. That is saying, I see you as love. I see you as an expression of God. I see you as the divine good. And that's where we have to go. That's where we have to be. That's where we have to stay. We can't keep colliding those thoughts of bad government, world peace. No, stop that. Let's just see peace. Let's see world peace. Let's claim it. We could be that catalyst that changes everything. These kind of thoughts that we have that are negative can be overcome by affirming universal Christ love for God and all people. If you don't want to say Christ, just say universal love. Universal love. Universal love is, I say Christ because it brings you back to the center of you. Makes you be the one responsible for it. I put this up here. Actually, this is from Unity in Naperville. And they, it's one of our, it's actually Warren's prayer partner when he was in ministerial, when he came for ministerial tryouts to go to school. Reverend Kitty. And they had it as blue above their eye for unity. They changed it. But they just came up with this logo. But here's the heart. And here's the infinity sign. This is another God thing because I had already written this. And then she posted on Facebook that this is their universal love symbol. And I was like, universal love, hello. I've got that in my message. So you can change the color. And I changed it to red. And it came out like a pinkish. But I love it. Don't you? Yes. Love infinity. That's such a good visual for that idea of universal love, of holding that love. You know, we have to go to that place of cleansing our thoughts and being in that place of seeing that. Now, it might take a spiritual cleaning, and if you feel inclined, take the duster out, dust yourself off, whatever you need to do that spiritual cleaning. But the results that will come from that are always going to be good. And in those moments when you just haven't seen the good yet, please take a breath. Go to prayer. Affirm for yourself that you know that the truth, the capital T truth, is God is good and divine good is mine now. Claim that for yourself. And if you have to, go back to dusting your mind. Thank you for being here today. God bless you.